Alrighty. One sec. Get the sound here. I don't know this time. All right, just hang tight and do a couple things here real quick. Why the default mic ain't come up? Hold on. All right, people, hang tight. Fixing this mic real quick. Don't know what the hell happened here. Oh, you know what? I think I know what it is. Hold on. One second. Okay. All right, hang tight a minute. Still trying to get a couple things fixed here. Ba-ba-ba. Hold on. Why is that not coming up? Hold on, let me downsize that real quick. Just hang tight. Let's see what's going on. Hold on. I swear. Hang tight. All right. All right, we're going to start in a second. Just checking something real quick. Trying to find this mic. I hooked it up last time. I don't know why I'm not getting it. All right. Let me see something real quick. Okay, I think it's in here. Let me try to find it. Oh, I tell you. It's not what I'm looking for. There we go. I don't know why that's not happening there. Hold on. All right. All right, let's test the sound. Can you guys hear me good? I got this mic plugged in, but last time I saw it pop up, I didn't see it. But could somebody confirm the sound? Like I said, I just started using this thing last live. How was the sound? Anybody, somebody. Type in, can hear me. All right, sound is good. All right, so when I get close to this, does it get louder? Does it sound louder when I get close to that? All right, but when I move in, does it feel like the volume is getting louder? I'm just confirming something with this. All right, thank you. All right, cool. We'll roll with it. All right. Apologize for that. Just was making sure this thing was hooked up. Cool. All right. I want to welcome everybody. Lately I know I've been popping on a little more lately. I just go with the flow. I can't really tell you. Ain't no method to it. So real quick, I'm going to run through some real quick announcements. Try to make it quick. I always like to do that. Keep people in the know-how and what's going on. Let me pull up again the class dates so I ain't giving wrong dates and times. First and foremost, I want to let everybody know about the upcoming classes for this month. I definitely would encourage everybody to check out the Patreon page. I see a lot of you guys are signing up, which I'm glad to see that. It's actually better than paying for individual classes. On my Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Tier 3 is the tier you want to go with for $25 a month. It gives you access to all the classes and the rituals, even the ones I'm about to let you know about in a second. It also gives you access to all of the material prior to before you join, since the channel began. And then obviously it gives you access to everything moving forward. It's great because if you can't make it there live for the class, everything is archived and recorded. And that's one of the number one things that always comes up. People contact me, I want to take the classes, but I can't get there live. You don't have to be there live if you can't. Now, if you can get there live, obviously it's great for you to come and interact with everybody else, no doubt. But it's totally understandable. All of us live in different time zones within the United States. And as I said, I got people from other countries that are in completely different time zones. And you could take the classes on your time. Okay. So don't stress that. If you can't get to every live class, you get to the live classes that you can. The ones you can't, you just stay up to date and up to breast on the archived recordings, especially with the ongoing series ones. Those are the more there's classes, obviously tons of classes on there that are just one class for that particular subject, but there are several ongoing series of classes. Those are critical to stay up on and watch the recordings if you can't get there live, because if you come into class 4 or 5 and maybe you didn't see the previous ones, some of the questions might be answered in those classes. So you don't need to be there live all the time if you cannot. If you can, it is best if you can get there. All right, so it's patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. Check it out. So upcoming classes, again, I ran through these last. I will go through them again. What we have upcoming for the month of February. And it looks like that third, I will slide in that third shadow work class on Wednesday, this upcoming Wednesday. I'll put something out on that before the weekend is out. I said I would squeeze another one in, and it looks like I'll be able to get that in Wednesday evening. That'll be shadow work class number 3. A lot of you reached out to me and have just been doing the shadow work 30-day thing we're doing right now, and I'm glad to hear people are getting good results from it, and that's the purpose. We're going to talk a little bit about that tonight. That's going to be connected to the topic, but look for that Wednesday. If you're on Patreon, you should get that notification. All right. So the next class is Saturday, February 12th, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sith, Dark Side Alchemy, and Philosophy, class number 2. That'll be Saturday, February 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, if you're a Patreon tier 3, you're good to go. You don't need to do anything if you want to sign up. Again, either go to Patreon or you can sign up for the class individually, which all the information to sign up, you can pay by PayPal, Cashapp. Individual classes are $56. When you do make payment, please include in your payment notes your name and your email address so the link is assured to go to the right email. And this is for all the classes, so I don't have to repeat myself. The price is the same. And if you use any of those payment methods, Cash App or PayPal, please include your name and email, and I will send that to you. Or better off, again, it's you get all those monthly classes that I'm running through for that one price on Patreon, which is a much better value, and it saves you half of the money that you would pay for an individual class. It saves you half. All right, so definitely check out the tier 3 on the Patreon page. Again, if you forget anything, the Patreon page, contacts, it's all in the description box here on YouTube. You can keep abreast of announcements, classes, and things of that nature on the Instagram page, which is Primordial Chaos 9, all one word, or Primordial Chaos, 2 words, on Facebook, and right here in the community section of the YouTube page here on Primordial Chaos. And then on Wednesday, February 16th, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., Eastern Left-Hand Path Occult class number 2. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, February 16th. And then Saturday, February 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing the Esoterical Occult Bible Study class number 4, which has been a very popular series and a lot of good response from people who are really into that class, taking it because it's giving them answers to a lot of stuff they might have had in their minds when they were in religion back in the day. And then it brings you up to speed with how you put that all together in context in the now in 2022. And then Friday, February 25th, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Patreon members only, tier 3 and above, Ritual of Azazel, the Dark Mystic, which will connect with, I always try to connect for the most part, the monthly ritual with the work that we're doing in the classes for that month. All right. So definitely check it out. I definitely recommend you. Again, tier 3 on Patreon, patreon.com/Baniti. And then to put out there, if you're interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, I offer a different variety of readings, clepothic demonic readings, shadow work readings, which is a great place to start. People always ask, where should I begin? I'm confused on what's going on in my life. What's a good starting point? I never work with people and push them into hardcore intense shit without first making sure that they're doing some form of shadow work to understand themselves, which is going to tie into the topic we're about to talk about, because that's just not what you do, okay? Sometimes you might like something or you want to do something, but you could be doing more detrimental damage to yourself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually because you haven't dealt with the shadow, the hidden self, and you haven't addressed some of the shit about yourself that you need to address. And it starts with the mundane. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. It starts with the mundane. Don't let nobody fool you. All right. But that's how I operate. So if you're interested in any of the readings, Santa Muerte and Spirit of the Dead reading, Egyptian Oracle reading, a deity reading, which to see what deities, spirits, or demons that you walk with. Others, if you need a full list of that, send me an email. I'll send you the full list with the prices and your days and times you're available, and we can book something, set something up. All right. That's you can email me at khnum19@gmail.com. Again, everything I'm saying is in the description box of the video if you forget, so you can find that information there. Also, I want to keep pumping out the Journey of the Black Adept Conference, even though it's in October, number 5. This will be the 5th year we're doing it, and we're expecting that to get back to normal. We had a decent turnout, even though there was shit still kind of going on in this midst of this pandemic stuff. But we still got a good turnout. We had a safe event, and everything went well. And we expect that to grow. I'm sure by October rolls around, we'll be in even a better place than we were the previous year. So we're looking forward to that. But book your calendars. Always the last weekend in October 28th to the 30th. We get together for 3 days. It's classes, workshops, rituals. We have, group/family dinners. We have a meet and greet the Thursday evening before. Technically, it's the 27th to the 30th because Thursday night is always the meet and greet. So it's a nice 3.5, 4-day event where we kind of get together and you can fellowship with other left-hand path occult practitioners. So it's set for that reason. It gives us an annual event that we can get together every year. So mark your calendars for that, October 28th to the 30th. All right, so real quick greetings, and then I'll get to the material, and then I'll come back to the chat. But so greetings to Yvette, good to see you here. I know you've been coming regularly. Slim Lewis, what's going on? Vision TG. Yeah, I didn't forget about you, brother. I'll get you in this week. As you know, it's not an excuse, but I'm completely buried in consultations, readings, especially the yearly forecast reading, which I forgot to mention, which I'll be doing for a few more weeks. I do it this time of the year for about 2.5 months. Yearly forecast reading kind of gives you a forecast outlook for your entire year, what to expect, but also gives you the know-how, regardless of what comes up in those readings, even if it may seem something not positive. And when I do readings for people, I don't bullshit people, okay? I want to make that clear. I don't tell you what you want to hear. I just want to make that clear. I'm not just going to fluff stuff up just to suit your ego. You're going to get whatever comes up, whatever the spirits say. So I always tell people, don't come into spiritual readings looking to hear how great you are and how fantastic you are and how you're the son and daughter of this spirit. Sometimes that stuff comes up. That's great. But sometimes people ain't prepared for the cold, hard truth that comes up in them readings and dealing with what they need to deal with. That's just how I operate. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm not going to spare your feelings in this. I'd be doing you an injustice if I did that, okay? So the yearly forecast readings are very detailed. They get a little personal. Well, all of them get personal, but you can utilize that information and awareness. Now, you take that knowledge and you utilize it. You're not a victim of, and it's not the tell-all be-all, and you're not a victim to those circumstances. You have the ability to change them. You always have the ability to make the change. And I'm going to tell you, divination, consultation, spiritual readings, some people use it in a spooky fucking way. Okay, they should be used of tools for information that you can gather, and if you utilize the information you get in readings, and you utilize it to better yourself, they become a very productive and powerful factor. I don't use them for that bullshit. I don't come. You got other people. You'll do a reading for them, and then they'll come back hit you upside the head. You need to do this or that. And it involves tons of money after that. They come the back door with all the game and the hustle. I don't do that shit. I show people how you do the work for yourself, okay? I've mentioned this many times off and on over the years. I don't do this for a living. And the problem is that people that do YouTube for a living, and that's their main bread and butter, most of them have a hustle, okay? Because this is what they do. You understand? I'm not saying all of them. Most of them have a hustle. You got to be careful. I do this because I love to do it. As I said before, I do it when I can do it. But I have a totally different avenue of income in my life that I utilize. I just want to make that clear. So I don't come up the backside of your head, tell you, and be careful with people that do readings. And the first thing out the gate, they telling you got an evil spirit on you. I'd stop the reading right there. That's the classic doorway to Hustle City. I'll tell you straight up, because usually it's followed by, you need to do this work. I could do it for you. And then here comes the ridiculous price. So be careful with that stuff. There's a lot of hustle out there. But anyway, you can reach me for readings at that email. But mark the calendar down for the Journey to Black Adept Conference number 5, October 27th to the 30th. All right. And it's a great event. Hopefully we get to see some new people this year. And it went much better than we thought, being back live first after the pandemic. All right. So who else we got here? So Vision TG, I know you're on the road during the week. We got to set something up. I was trying to do it this weekend. We might even have to just call you maybe on the phone. Well, I'll send you an email. Who else we got? Oh shit, hold on. What else we got here? Let me go down. Hey, bad Slim. I'm just gonna try to do this quick. Mitchell, what's going on, Mitchell? Shout out to Vida Kalisha. I like the name, Vida Kalisha. First time listener. Okay, cool. Well, good to see you here. Glad you were able to make it. Hopefully, we see you more. And greetings to everybody else, just for the sake of time, because I know I will get back to the chat. Just be patient with me when you have comments, questions. Hang tight. I just want to run through why I've been coming on a lot for the last 2 weeks. I mentioned in the last live, if you didn't catch the last live, I did a video on the war between Set and Heru and the Eternal Now. And you see the title tonight. I've been going through a lot of small pamphlets that I recommended in the last live. You guys take a look at. Michael Kelly, who wrote the book Apophis, has a series of small pamphlets. They're written formats of some lectures that he's done on these subjects. They're great little tools. All of them, I have them all on Kindle in digital format. I'm sure you can, if you want, you can get them hard copy, but I have them all in digital format because they're small. It's not something I really want to collect in hard format because they're more pamphlets. They're not really books, but I think they're excellent tools because they're about 13 to 15 pages. You can literally read them in about 10 minutes. So if you're looking for a quick read, and I think it's a cool idea and a cool thing that he did with putting a whole series out on these different topics. So I've been going through them the last week or so, and it's just been inspiring me to come take some of these topics and kind of have a discussion on them and build on them because I think they're really good, concrete topics that are really touching on the core of what we do on this path, right? And if you know the history of Michael Kelly, such as myself, he used to be a member of the Temple of Set. He was a magister. I was only a high priest in the Temple of Set and then resigned. I went over that in the video. You can see the whole story with that. I'm not going to waste my time getting into that. So we have similar backgrounds. He was also, if you know his history and you've read it, he was also head of the priesthood of the Order of Leviathan. And then he branched off, as you know, and started his own order, the Order of Apophis, which deals with, you know, if you've read Apophis, mastering the 7 heads of Leviathan, which is a real intense form of shadow work. Is everybody cut out for that? No, I'm gonna be honest with you, because if you read it, there's some rituals and exercises in there that you really got to apply yourself. But he, again, great stuff, good information, great work. So the one I want to touch on today, having said all that, the one I want to kind of build on today, and shout out to everybody on Instagram. I will try to pay attention to this when we get to the question portion. If you have, shout out to Beauty and Lights, Maniac Mitchell, Holo Rose. Hopefully I didn't butcher that. And if I missed anybody else, you could also come over to YouTube Live, and if you get time, or stay there, I'll try to keep note of it. So the topic I wanted to talk about today, the Holy Guardian Angel, and somebody in the last live, well, 2 lives ago, actually gave me the idea or inspired me or put the thought in my head to do this live. I can't remember who it was. They might be in here now. And I, you know, in that, not the last live, but the previous one, I said, you know what, that would be a good topic because it's really in line with what I teach and I'm trying to show people. And it is a key component of being the Black magician, or adept, an occultist, whatever you want to call it, as I like to prefer to call it, being on the path of self-mastery. It is a key component to self-mastery. Now, there's a connection between the two. So that's why I titled the video, Is the Holy Guardian Angel, which some might be familiar through Thelema and the teachings of Aleister Crowley and other schools of magic and thought, is it the same as the personal daemon? And the other word we probably want to include in there is the Agaetho-daemon. So I want to kind of talk about these a little bit. I have a couple of short excerpts from that series, the Apophis lectures by Michael Kelly. And this one is for you guys reference. I'll give you the number like I did the other one. This is lecture number 39, The Knowledge and Conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel. It's in the Apophis lecture series by Michael Kelly. It's pamphlet number 39. And again, I'm going from the digital format. I don't have these in hard copy. So my page alignment may not be exactly the same, but I can just give you the volume or the pamphlet number, right? And you can that part you can work out for yourself. All right, so let me go through a couple of things here and we'll talk about, are they the same? They are, but when it's presented as far as when somebody uses the term Holy Guardian Angel, which I mentioned multiple times over the years, that's a term a lot of people in the occult got familiar with years back through the teachings of Crowley, because Crowley believed his holy guardian angel, who he referred to as Alois, right, that gave him the inspiration, and he made contact and connected with his holy guardian angel and was the inspiration behind the Book of the Law, right? He claims he had his own personal experience in the pyramids in Egypt. And you guys know the rest of the story. So he referred to it as his holy guardian angel. Now, there's some religious connotation in that title. I wanted to put it in the title, but we got to be careful when we use that. Why? Because you can go into Catholicism and other branches of Christianity, and they teach that we have guardian angels, right? They literally teach that we have spirit guides. A lot of different paths and systems do. It's a little bit more of a watered down aspect as opposed to the context of how we use it on the occult, the left-hand path. We don't believe there's some, being with wings and a long white robe watching over us 24/7. Not in that context. That's mythological, faith-based, and it comes from religious mythology. So, I got to say, I don't present it or teach it like that. And I'm sure many other people who are on this path will tell you the same. So we need to decipher between that. But the concept, how it's used, is very similar. So we need to be able to filter through and go through all of them so we understand the difference. The purpose and the intent, right, is similar, but the functionality of how it's probably done, that's where it's going to differ a bit. All right. So let me go through this section here. In lecture number 39, the knowledge and conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel from the Apophis lecture series. All right. So the daemon. Now, notice we use, let me reiterate this, even though I've gone over it a couple times. Do not confuse the word daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, with the spooked out, spooky religious word demon, D-E-M-O-N. It's where the word demon actually manifested or came from. It's just monotheism, as I've said in the past, has ostracized that word. And when you hear it now, you think of, from a religious, mainly a Christianity, Judaic, Islamic perspective, you hear demons and you think about the exorcist and exorcisms and all that stuff. That's not what we mean when we talk about that. We don't look at demons in that light. Demon comes from that root word daemon. We look at them as no different as somebody in another path would look at spirits as connection to higher levels of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? So the word daemon, D-A-E-M-O-N, has root in the word, in the Greek word, the daemon, or the Agaetho-daemon, you will find it in the Greek, that in Hermeticism or in Hermetics was used to identify, which I'm about to go through right now, your higher self, the real you. The daemon is only contacted and made connecting with through demonic integration work and through shadow work. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And this is kind of what we're going in depth and detail in the shadow work classes and in the classes on Patreon. I'm showing people literally hands-on how you do the work, minus all the superficial bullshit. I'm not showing you some fucking internet occult conspiracy. There's just a lot of shit out there. And I'm not trying to be judgmental of people. There's a lot of garbage out there. Anybody that tells you you don't have to get your mundane life in order doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. Stay away from them people. Your mundane life must be flowing in harmony. Is it going to be perfect? No, we're all going to be dealing with bullshit. You're going to have problems, family problems, relationship problems, money problems, career, business. There's always going to be issues. But when you understand what's going on in your mundane world and you have it flowing in harmony and you're able to master it, it's only going to make your focus and concentration on your spiritual and ritual work even more powerful and concrete. You cannot have the right focus and intent on your spiritual work when your mundane life is in chaos and disarray. It is your job to master it and get yourself into position. That is the root of shadow work. Does it go deeper and beyond that? Yes. But if you're not starting there, you're off to a bad start. All right. It's critical. All right. So the daemon, or the holy guardian angel, is the tutelary spirit. Let me put this here. I can see it a little better, which guides the magician, right? And as I've used it, look at the personal daemon / holy guardian angel
as the facilitator that connects you to all aspects of the spirits and the spirit world. What do I mean by that? I've used this metaphor in the past, right? If you remember the old engines on the old cars, and I talked about this before, they had what we called distributor caps. And all the spark plugs were linked to the distributor cap. If the distributor cap was bad, the spark to the plugs is bad, and the engine usually doesn't crank up, turn over, or run smooth. Well, look at the personal daemon as the distributor cap on an engine, right? That thing needs to be functioning, and you need to be connected to it right. Then you can really connect with Samael, Lucifer, Lilith, whatever spiritual Kali, whoever. Your connection is going to be more solid because you've stripped away the illusionary self. When you go into this work with the illusionary self of who you think you are and not who you really are, shit can go chaotic and go awry. See, connecting with your personal daemon or your holy guardian angel assures you one fact. You've stripped away the illusionary self, and now you're dealing with the real you, right? That's just the difference between somebody going to war with the incorrect battle arm. It's like going to a gunfight with a butter knife, right? As opposed to the individual that goes to war with the right tools. And that's the only way it can be done, regardless of what people say. I don't care. I mean, yeah, people can have a difference of opinion and they're entitled to it, but I guarantee the results will show and validate what I'm saying. All right, so it is the tutelary spirit that guides the magician, and the process of attaining the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, in other words, of establishing communication with the daemon and gaining access to its guidance and teaching, is one of the absolutely central initiatory experiences. And this caught my attention when I read it. Central, core, foundation. Even the author here, Michael Kelly, is saying the same thing. Okay? I just don't think if you're a true practitioner on this path, I just don't know how you avoid it or how you don't deal with it or how it's not part of your work and your path. And this is why what we do, as I've said many times before, is different from what other people do, right? Because when you hear me saying all the time, and I'm not just saying it to be saying it, when you hear me say all the time, this is an inward journey out, not an outward journey in, that we go within ourselves to look for the answers. The shadow self or the hidden self resides in the inner deep aspects of our subconscious mind. There is where you must go to unlock that awareness. And you're going to find out there's a lot of things buried there, good and what you would label as bad. Okay? What happened? Something happened. Oh, that was crazy. Man. Oh, wow. That was crazy. Anyway. So yeah. When you unlock that, you're going to uncover powerful things there that you didn't know, capabilities that you didn't know you have. You're going to be able to strengthen some of your strengths even stronger and make yourself more powerful. Those are the great things. And then you will also uncover psychological traumas that are holding you back, blocking you, that have left psychological residue, that are preventing you from living a good, productive life as far as being the best you can be on all levels. Through shadow work, I show people how you master yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, and yes, financially. Those are the 5 key components that you should be striving for and working for on this path. If you're not, then I don't know why the fuck you're here. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea why you would be on this path. If you're here for all of the aesthetic shit, because you want to look so gloomy and dark and you want to play dress up and cosplay and you want to put on black robes and you know, and use all the lingo, and you know, it's one thing if you're wearing sigils and pendants just to be wearing them to bring attention to yourself because you want everybody to know you're a cult. I wear my occult jewelry. I wear is charged with energy. It's more spiritual to me. It's not just, and I don't really try to wear it for everybody to see me and put myself out there as a billboard, because usually that's a sign of insecurity. It's different if you're wearing it because you're fully rooted and grounded in You'll be surprised how I ask people, they're wearing a symbol, and I ask them, what does that mean to you? And they give me the basic meaning. The question I ask is, what does that mean to you? Okay, there's a difference. I know what the surface meaning of the sigil or the symbol might be. That's not what I asked. And I'm not asking how you use it on a personal magical level, because some of us charge jewelry and amulets. It's a vessel. It's a personal vessel of our magical power that's connected to us. And you should never reveal that to anybody, right? We wear it for a multitude of purposes. But you'll be surprised how you ask somebody, and then when they can't really, break it down, and it's just like, okay, so you're wearing it just because you want attention, right? I don't do that shit. That's just why you see a lot of these hoteppers in these conscious communities and these conscious circles. They go to the extreme, I call them conscious blingers. They got on all the big ass truck conscious jewelry, the big onks bigger than their head, Flavor Flav onks. They got the ridiculous oversized African beads and, the clothing. And like I said, you could put on all the African beads and all the jewelry. That doesn't make you that culture. It doesn't make you from that place. It just means you probably didn't get enough of breast milk when you were a child and you're craving for attention. That's just the way it is. There's no need to go to the extreme like that. Your example is the greatest projection that you can send out to anybody in what you stand for and the work that you're doing. What do I mean by that? The life that you lead. So if somebody look at you, they may not agree with what you do spiritually or being in line with what you accept as your reality or spiritual path, but they can turn and look at you and go, yeah, that person got their shit together. He or she is a good husband or wife or spouse or a good mother or father to their child. They're successful on all levels. They got a successful business. They're productive in all aspects of their life, etc. That's the greatest thing you can project to people, because that's going to inspire them. They're going to look at you and be inquisitive and know, oh, there's something you're doing that I'm not doing, right? That's the greatest thing. It doesn't mean because you put on all the external shit, doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean because you say Hotep or Alafia or Ashe, that doesn't give you a guaranteed pass card into spirituality, as I say. It's comical. All right, but let's continue. Now, when we start looking at this experience, it really started coming into its own with the Golden Dawn, which, remember, through Crowley, and was developed considerably by Crowley. Now, if you look at the Golden Dawn documents, there's no reference to the Holy Guardian Angel, right? They speak of the higher self. And this is why I wanted to do this video, because it's really in context, it's the same thing, but you might see different avenues the way it's presented, where some could interpret it's connected but completely different. I don't really think so. That's not the case. It's all in line with the same context, all right? They speak of the higher self. They speak of the genius, which is the Latin term, with basically the same connotations as the daemon, right? These days, the words genius is used to refer to somebody's own innate intellectual brilliance. But originally, the genius was an external tutelatory spirit, a guide. And they speak of the agoides, which again is a term relating to a tutelatory guide. Now, the next question that always comes in line, is your personal daemon, is there an external aspect to it? And I've said yes, but you manifest your external aspect. There's a demonic integration ritual that we've been doing in the classes for a while now, where you actually externally manifest your personal daemon to connect with it. But it never falls out of the context that it comes from within. Right? Because you still, when you're doing ritual work, connecting with spirit, connecting with demon, I don't care if it's Lilith, I don't care if it's Samael, Lucifer, whoever it may be. When you're connecting with those spirits and you're having an external experience and you see them in a vision, in a meditation, in a visualization you're doing, you are manifesting that by everything that you've stored in your subconscious mind, from what you read on those spirits and demons, from the images your eyes gazed upon, from everything you stored in the biggest computer, which is the subconscious mind in your brain, right? So you manifest, you create that external experience based on what you absorbed on a conscious and a subconscious level. So yes, there's an external aspect of it. Now, some almost like a servitor, I'm just using that, it's not the same thing, but they give it form and void. So some manifest the visual or the form that they give their personal daemon is created by them. Because remember, you are manifesting an inner higher aspect of yourself, right? That's what is the tutelary guide. Now, the reason why they connected here with the genius self, they use the term the genius self. We know what the word genius means. Now, not a coincidence, it also has root in the word genie, jinn, that's a whole nother story. But you are connecting with the wise, the higher, the real, the intelligent aspect of yourself. That's the part of you that gives you that guidance, right? Does it take shape and form? This is kind of where, when I was mentioning earlier, such as in Catholicism and Christianity, they get the concept, or even though they gave it the form and they gave it the form for you, right? They painted the image, they gave you the angel in the white robe with the wings. It does the same thing as far as giving you knowledge, wisdom, and understanding via the guidance. So that's where it's the same. That's why I was saying what I was saying earlier. But you are the one that manifests it, that creates it, that gives it shape and form. And you are the one that has to access it via your work. It's not like how it's done in reverse in those dogmas and spiritual faiths where, you hear the angelic voices, and and some fucking cloud opens up and some angel is floating with wings and I am your guardian. That's where the spookism comes in, and that's where the disconnect comes in. And that's where people get lost and confused, especially people who know nothing about this path. Not so much per se people like us or people that are on this path that have that knowledge. Unfortunately, you'll be surprised. All right. So, but it was, let's continue on. But it was the MacGregor Mathers of the Golden Dawn who discovered in the French Bibliothèque des Arsenal manuscript of the Book of the Sacred Magic of Abramelin, the mage, and he translated this. He did an absolutely fantastic job of the translation, right? And it has to be said, including many of his suggestions of the origins and the names of spirits and what they actually mean, because this sort of thing is important. And Abramelin is full of lists of hundreds of spirits, if you've ever read that, as well as suggestions on how the various magical squares were composed and so on. And Crowley took this work literally to heart, right? Now, Abramelin is like any of the old grimoires. It instructs the magician to take a 6-month sabbatical, which is divided into 3 sections of 2 months apiece, and each section being more intensive in its fervency and its aspiration than those before, until finally, after the 6-month period, they are able to invoke the holy guardian angel and to commune with that being. Just another polite way of intense shadow work. Do you see what I'm saying now? It's the same process I'm using right now on Patreon in the shadow work classes. I've started people on a 30-day working that they've started and they're in the midst of right now. That is step 1. From what data they've gathered in that work about themselves, we will then go to ritual work that's specifically geared and designed for that purpose for those select individuals, right? And from there, we keep proceeding where we can get to this point. As it says here, we're not per se maybe doing the exact, it doesn't have to be done in increments of 2-month sabbaticals and 3s, but it is work. It takes effort, time, and energy to put in. And this is what I'm trying to get people to see, where people just come on this path and they have this illusionary concept of what it's about. They think it's just, I'm just going to do some candle magic, light a few candles, say a few invocations, and poof. They think their problems are going to be solved. No, I'm going to tell you this. When you first come on this path, it's like just think about opening a door of a closet that's jam-packed with junk, filled to the gills, and you open that door, what happens? All that junk falls out of the closet. When you come on this path, you're essentially opening that closet, and all the shit comes out, everything. And it has to be done. This is what I mean when I keep saying it all must be destroyed in order to be built back up again. It has to be. It's the only right way to do it. You can't come on this path and keep, oh, I'm going to still hang on to this. I'm going to keep doing this way. Oh, you can't try to be selective. No, 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 no. When you come on this path, you are intently saying, here I am. All right, rip me apart. I want to do this all over again from scratch and do it right. Now, your past experience will be learning aspects. It will be helpful in the sense it'll be able to make you do serious analytical work about yourself. And those experiences will help you from the past moving forward, but you should not carry the same old way of doing things, the same old methods. When you go through a serious initiation, especially on this level, when you're doing shadow work and working towards accessing and invoking your holy guardian angel or your personal daemon, as I prefer to call it, this is what you got to prepare yourself to go through, right? And this is what I mean when I've been saying for years, be prepared to embrace the change, the intensity of it, and the quickness of it. Sometimes we can underestimate it. Sometimes we think we're ready and it just comes in waves and it can be a bit overwhelming. But you know what? Nothing in life that's worth something is going to be easy to accomplish, right? If it was that easy, we wouldn't even be here, right? We wouldn't be having these conversations, right? We wouldn't be even having these discussions. If we had it all figured out, there'd be no need for YouTube classes, Patreon, to do rituals, right? If we had the answers and had the shit all figured out, we wouldn't even be doing any of this stuff. That's why I laugh at the know-it-alls that think they know everything. If you know it all, you wouldn't even be here having this discussion. We wouldn't be wasting our time. See, we confuse, like when we say we are destined and we are gods and goddesses, but it's a work in progress. We forget that part. We are striving to continuously work towards that. Do we have moments where we obtain that state? Yes, we call that Khepera, right? Moments of Khepera, or Khepera as they say, right? Of course we have moments of remanifestation. But if we were at that state where we had it all figured out, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. All right. All right. Let's see what else we got. And it is very important to note that this experience occurs after such a huge period of intensive work, like I was just saying, especially shadow work, because that's always the way with magic. You know, this isn't something you're going to have to happen tomorrow. It's not going to work like that. Again, if it was that easy, shit, I wouldn't even be here wasting my time. That's the other problem. Remember, I've always said for years, the hardest school in spirituality to master, and all the great sages and mystics and gurus and swamis have said it in all schools of thought. Buddha, any teacher of enlightenment, Gandhi, all of them. Patience is the hardest school to master. And I tell everybody, first, you must be patient with yourself, because if you're not patient with yourself, you cannot be patient with others. I'm telling you this from life experiences. It's something I've struggled with on and off for years. My patience level at periods, it's great. I got it in line. It's working, but there's periods where I'm terrible with it. I lose my patience. I have no patience for dumb shit. I have no time for ridiculous stuff, and sometimes I have to catch myself and slow myself down. So patience is always a work in progress. But again, you must be patient with yourself. Don't come on this path thinking, again, like I said a few minutes ago, I'm going to light a few candles, do a few invocations, and puff the magic dragon, poof, all my problems are solved. Man, listen, I wish it was that easy. If it was that easy, again, we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even be having these discussions. I would assume the reason why everybody here and everybody that's part of platforms like this, you're here to learn because you're trying to get the answers to those questions. If you felt like you knew them all, you wouldn't be here. Then we got some, you got the pompous jackasses, the know-it-alls, but they're very easy to tear apart. That's an easy thing, right? All right, so let's continue. And having done this and having established the communication, This book goes on to provide many of the Book of Abramelin, right? Magic squares for use in various different circumstances. And in order to empower these squares and enable them to work, the magician is given power to command the demons. Now, I want to stop there because that is what you must always have locked in your head. You have the power to command, quote unquote, the demons, right? Let's talk a little bit about that real quick. It's very important you go into your work with that mindset. Because when you go in with the confidence that you are the driving force, the commanding force, and the power that facilitates that, it really keeps your mind and your confidence level in a place of power, and it assures that you'll get the beneficial results and the outcome you're looking for. When you go in with self-doubt and inferiority complexes, and to go into work with spirits and demons with an inferior complex, as far as you thinking you're inferior to them, or with fear, that's a recipe for disaster. Trust me when I tell you. Don't get it twisted, because when I've always said for years, remember, your goal is to walk side by side with the spirits and the demons based on the intelligence you show or put forth. And that's who they reach out to more. One who has like intelligence and walks side by side with these spirits and demons. Not one that's trying to worship them, not one that feels inferior, because that's when that energy that you access can become very devouring in nature. And just as we use the term, we can use certain techniques or devouring methods, but if we don't know what we're doing, we too can be devoured, right? We can be consumed by our chaos, right? And it starts with the mundane. And this is why this is important to understand, because when your mundane life is in chaos, and it's not, look, as I said earlier, I'm not talking about, you're never going to get up and look at every aspect of your life as being perfect. It just doesn't exist. It's not a reality. You'll always be dealing with some bullshit, like I said earlier, whether it's personal or family problems, maybe business or money problems to a degree, etc. Drama, bullshit, it always comes, right? But you'll be able to master it and keep it at bay and control it, where it's not a part that it's affecting your life so bad that you can't be successful in all that you do. That's the difference. And that's the importance of shadow work. It starts with the mundane self. That's the importance of connecting with the personal daemon or the higher self or the holy guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, because it gives you that awareness, right? And when your mundane life is in order, again, I have to reiterate, as I said earlier, it's going to give you more focus and concentration on your spiritual life, okay? It's going to give you more focus and concentration on your spiritual life. This is why some people who are always have these gripes and complaints, I'm struggling, I don't get no results, it's hard for me to get something done, I don't have enough of time to do anything, I can never get to this or that. That's usually the reason why, because they don't have any order over the chaos in their personal life. And I've said, let me reiterate it again, managing your time is magic itself. That's magic itself, especially in this day and time with how the world has changed and how everything is fast and you got to keep pace, right? We're not living in the same world we were living in 15, 20, 25 years ago. Things have changed. And you got to be able to keep, things have gotten a lot faster, some for the better and some for the worse. So you've got to look at your life and put it in order. And it starts first with managing your time. And we're focusing on this also in the shadow work class, because you'll be surprised how people have no control, how they manage. I'm just talking about some people can't even manage a simple day in their life. Literally. Like, I didn't understand, well, they get up, what are you going to do today? I don't know. Shit. I've never gotten up and didn't know from the moment I've gotten up what I needed to do that day in years, probably since I was young and dumb. I just don't know how a grown adult don't know what to do with themselves and doesn't know, well, I don't know what to do. And then they sitting around wasting time and bullshit. And then before you know it, the whole day comes, or they become a couch potato and just rot away, flipping through surfing channels on the TV and just waste all their time. It don't, like I said, it don't mean, I'm not saying you can't watch TV. I watch TV. Not saying you can't entertain yourself and watch movies and sports, and that's not what I'm saying. But know how to manage your time. If that's all you're doing, and you don't have clarity on what direction you're going in, that's a problem. It's even a bigger problem if you claim to be on this path. Something's wrong with that. All right, maybe somebody who, quote unquote, doesn't know what's really going on or is not really on this level of awareness. All right, they might to an extent have an excuse. I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to people like us who claim to be on this path and have no direction. That is totally unacceptable. Okay, and I call it for what it is. And that's why I said when I do readings and consultations for people, they're not going to come to me and I'm not going to sit here and fluff your ego and make you feel good. Some people, not just with myself, I've heard stories over the years with many people that you talk with that does this type of stuff. And some people come in with these preconceived notions that I'm going to do a spiritual reading with the spirits and the demons to find out how special I am. Now, maybe some of that stuff comes up. It does here and there. But sometimes people's feelings get hurt because it takes them to traumas in their life. Stuff might come up about when they were abused as a child, physically, sexually, mentally, verbally, right? Stuff comes up where they might be harboring daddy and mommy issues and other personal stuff, and they're not prepared for it. And I tell people before I begin when I do these readings, look, especially shadow work readings, right? And I don't force anybody to talk about what comes up, but I let them know in advance. Some shit's going to come up. And the purpose of doing a shadow work reading, in my opinion, is to deal with that stuff head on. You don't want to do a shadow work reading if you're not willing to talk about what comes up, because then what's the point of doing it? Okay? And believe me, it's going to come up. And you don't even have to say anything. It's going to come up. You don't have to even allude to it. You don't even have to make a word about it. It will come up. That's the purpose of doing it. Okay? So never go into one of those sessions with, oh, let me see how special I am. Let me see how much Samael loves me and I'm the chosen one. We all have a personal connection with the spirits. You know what's so egotistical and pompous about that? How one person could really think out of the millions upon millions of people that connect with this energy that you're special and you're different. Yes, you're special and different and unique in as far as you're approaching what you do, and you should have that mindset personally. But when you try to project it on others, is what I'm trying to say, then it becomes a problem, right? And that's the problem with people co-signing on other people's subjective experiences, right? That's why I don't do that. That's why I don't get on here and talk about downloads and all this and that, because you got to be careful when you say that, because I don't want nobody in the chat, oh, yeah, I agree. How can you agree if you didn't have the same experience? Now, maybe to those that had a similar or like experience, that's different. But it's still not going to be in accord exactly word verbatim and in the same methodology as yours. It's impossible. We have to understand, being tapped into the isolated consciousness, we all are having our unique experiences individually, but it's all part of what we call the collective consciousness, right? So in the fluffy paths, when they say all things are connected, I have no problem with that. But we need to understand, in order to understand that connectedness, you must separate and isolate yourself from it and look from it outside the box. Because if you're inside the box and connected like everybody else, how do you really know how it operates? How do you really know how it functions? You're prey. That's what that is. That's what we mean when we say predator and prey. You are prey because you're inside the box. The predator, who is stalking, studying, and analyzing its prey, is looking from the outside perspective. They're in control. By nature, we are predators on the left-hand path, or the occult, or the path of self-mastery. Why? Because predators take what they want and what they need. Okay? But there's a method of doing it. So we don't sit around waiting for salvation. We don't sit around waiting for something or somebody to do something, or we don't wait for something to happen. We don't wait for something or somebody to tell us to do something. We don't wait for somebody to say, move left, move right, move forward. No. We become proactive based on the things we analyze about ourselves and the things around us, right? Someone who is purely reactive just acts off a raw emotion. So they don't gather the information. They don't do the analyzation they need to do. Now, I'm not talking about, there are situations, especially in times of danger and to protect yourself, where you need to be reactive right at the moment. I'm not talking about that. That's just common sense. That's natural instincts. That's natural survival. I'm talking about for the long haul. I'm talking about moments, choices, decisions, key things that's going on in your life and the world around you is when you need to be proactive, not reactive. Because the news, the media, and all the shit that's going on, we've been through some shit in this country in the last couple of years with the pandemic, obviously, with all these cop shootings and racial murders. And this is all, as I've said many times over the years, done for a reason, to stir up the emotions, to get a reaction out of you. Because if I can control your emotions, especially through fear and anger, I can control everything that you do. They know this. So it's just like if somebody tells you, oh man, this is fucked up, right? Something happens. Let's go out and protest and riot, and let's go grab it. Let's go out and kill motherfuckers and shoot motherfuckers, right? That's emotional, because the real person say, hold on, I can't go out there against an enemy that has more weapons, more manpower, more resources than I have. Because though you might be amped up and your anger's pumping and you're caught up in the moment, reality is going to set in at some point. Trust me. And that's what I mean when I say you can't go to a gunfight with a butter knife. Okay? Don't let people deceive you. Okay? And this is why I laugh when I see all this. When something goes down, even in these Black Lives Matters movements, you never see those Black Lives Matters people that are spitting those things in them speeches and rallies and getting the math. You never see them on the front lines doing all the dirt. Now ask yourself, just maybe they're put there for a reason. Just maybe they're put there for a reason. Maybe they're part of the tool that's being used and the instrument that's being used to get the masses emotional. So be proactive, not reactive. All right. Then it goes on to say, and having done this, and having done that, it gives you the ability to command the demons. And these two are called after the 6-month sequence. And the magician is then given power to command the demons because he has attained the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, whose authority cannot be denied. Now, in terms, this means that the magician has established such a connection and a direct link to their own innermost divinity. Divinity has root in the word divine, right? So you didn't make contact with the holy guardian angel, your personal daemon outside of yourself, right? What does it say? You came in contact with your innermost divinity, right? Now we could even refer back to the first Hermetic principle that everybody talks about in all different paths. All is mental. The mental is all the universe, really should be the multiverses. And the subjective universes are mental. Anything you do, in order for you to bring it into existence via objectively, you must formulate your thoughts on the subjective consciousness first. You can't get around that. That's what that principle means. Just even think about when you pause and something as simple as planning your day tomorrow. Think about, you stop, you think about it, and you visualize it. I've got to get up in the morning. I got to make a stop there. I got to do that. You're actually creating it. You're manifesting the actual scenario, how it's going to play out on the subjective realm. I'm giving you the science of how you do a black magic ritual if you're paying attention. And then you literally carry it out. When you get up and you physically, in your objective consciousness, carry the action out. There's a science in that and understanding the power of higher black magic. So I'm not going to get into all that here because that's a whole nother process, right? But you can't escape that concept. It must first be formed on the mental plane, for lack of a better word, before it could be brought into existence here on the objective or the physical, right? It's no different. I always ask when discussing ancient Egyptian topics, I always ask people, when you read in the pyramid text, coming forth by day, and it talks about how the deity, some call him Tar or Patar, how he thought himself into existence. What does that mean? What does that mean? Patar, how he created himself was, according to the text, he thought himself into existence. Think about that shit for a minute. Now, you could take that literally and go Spookyville, or you can take what it represents and what it means and apply it to yourself as a practicing magician or adept. I'm going to take the latter, okay? It's basically telling the neophyte, the adept, the student that's trying to master themselves, the power of the mind. It's basically saying you can create anything and bring it into existence if you understand how things manifest and form on your subjective realm or your subjective consciousness, whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing. Okay? This is how you build confidence. This is how you build that connection with that, as it describes here, innermost divinity. Because when we say we are God or goddess, we're talking about, and I know that's what I'm talking about when I say it, we have awakened the innermost divinity, the personal daemon that resides within us. That's what makes us God. And in turn, that makes us responsible. That makes us in control of our spiritual sovereignty. We're laying out the path to self-mastery. Nobody's doing it for us. Nobody's telling us how to do it. We are creating it as we go. Because we are the creator, the builders, and the destroyers simultaneously. You can't get around that fact. That's the difference in the approach. But with that, don't get this part twisted, comes accountability. That's the word and the focus we've been focusing on in the shadow work class, accountability. You must be accountable for all of your actions, not just the ones you pick and choose that you like. You must also be accountable for the bullshit you do. See, that's the hard pill to swallow. So you like to pat yourself on the back and stroke your ego with all the things that you, like to brag about or think you're good at. That's great. But do you take accountability when you're wrong? As far as, and it doesn't mean because you admit when you're wrong, doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you less of a person. It's something we call on this path, surrendering momentarily your divinity. You gain it back by correcting it. It's that simple. So it's hard for somebody to look at somebody and go, yeah, I fucked up. But what do we do? Because we're taught to cover it with lies and bullshit and bury it and pretend and find excuses. That's not something that's productive for your spirit. That's not something that's productive for bringing out this innermost divinity called the personal daemon, because you further disconnect from it when you lie to yourself and you deceive yourself. And then through that inner deception, you try to project it onto others and try to bullshit them. That doesn't work. Trust me when I tell you, it doesn't work. You will get caught up in that nonsense. Trust me when I tell you. All right. All right. Then it goes on. Let's continue here. Hold on 1 second. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Got to fix something right here. I got a few more things I want to go through here. Then I'll go through the chat. All right. Hold on. Load here. Come on. There we go. Okay. All right. I'm just fixing something here on the settings. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, accountability is important, right? Now, the very spark of self that they are able to gain control and power over all the lower or ancillary aspect of themselves and to control the world around them. To gain control. Now, let's look up this word just so we can have an understanding. 1, Notice it said gain control over the lower or ancillary aspects of themselves. So we just so we can go to Google, what's the meaning of ancillary? Just so we know, because it connects to what it's saying there. Basic meaning. I'm just going to give you the basic. Of lower or secondary class, subordinate, providing additional help or support. What does the term ancillary mean? What is an example, right? Something that is subordinate or accessory to something else. The definition of ancillary means something that is helping or subordinate, but not as necessary. An example is an overflow valve that is designed to take pressure off a main pumping system, right? So you must understand what aspects of yourself or lower aspects of yourself, right, that are not necessary, but you're holding on to them, right? And this is why you always hear me talking about a lot of people spend their lives chasing wants, right? And wants aren't, in this case, and falling under the line of this term, ancillary, are not necessities. We can become slaves to them or subordinate to them because we spend our life chasing them. So doing this work helps you understand, well, maybe there's a lot of aspects or low aspects of myself that I'm wasting time on. And that could be chasing wants that may not be productive for the now. It's that simple. This is what it's referring to. This is what it's talking about, right? Crowley took this system and he really ran with it. He brought Boleskine House on the shores of Loch Ness in order to carry out the operation there. He never actually completed it at the time, but there are some wonderful stories in his confessions. All right, I'm going to skip down to the next page, the third to last paragraph, to continue with the understanding of this innermost divinity that it's talking about, okay? What is this innermost divinity, okay? So what we are talking about is the way of establishing direct communication with the most divine spark of ourselves. That's what we're talking about, right? This is how we do it. Because if you can't do this or you're not doing this effectively, I'm going to guarantee, and assure that you're going to have some issues. Trust me when I tell you. Not some, a lot of issues. Because being on this path, you have to understand, it's no different than building a house. It's no different than constructing a plan to do something. You must follow the foundation first and foremost of that plan. And if it's not rooted in a foundation, this is why I said in the very beginning, if you came on real late, this is why I said in the beginning, I never instruct people or I don't work with people and encourage them to dive, especially newer people or new people on this path. It's not a good thing to immediately dive into deep, intense work. That can be much more disruptive. It could be more damaging on a psychological, mental, and emotional level. Because if I open you up and say, do this work with Samael, who's a very intense spirit, who's a very, destructive, reconstructive spirit that really rips the initiate apart from the inside out, you might have a lot of personal, mental, and other issues with yourself that you still haven't got a hold on. So if I go tell you and encourage you or design some work for you to do work with that spirit, that may not be a good thing. Yeah, it's gonna tear you apart. Yeah, it's gonna get you to where you need to be. But if you're not in a sound mind or a sound body, it might get you there via a route that you don't want to go. Okay. You might go through a lot more things that might have been unnecessary if you prepared yourself. And this is where I find there's a disconnect as far as awareness with people who are really, understand and are rooted in working in an effective approach when being successful on this path. Okay? Look, as I said earlier, this is one of the few paths where, unfortunately, there's not a manual from A to Z that tells you exactly how to do it. That's the other thing that kills me with some people. They're always looking for a book to tell them everything. And a book isn't going to tell you everything. I don't care who wrote it. I don't care how new or old it is. Books should be used as instructional tools of guidance, not the tell all be all. And guess what? It's not going to give you, it's not going to give you the complete answer and solution to your problems. That's the thing that kills me with people when it comes, per se, certain aspects, books. Books are great tools. I've said this many times before. I collect books, right? I love to read just like the next person does. But there comes a time where you're in that chamber room doing that ritual work. You're by yourself. There's no books. There's nothing there that's going to be able to help you. The only thing you have, the most powerful, effective thing that you have that should be helping you and that should be the only tool that you need is this right here. Because you should have it all up in here. If you're solely dependent on the book or something or somebody, that's a problem. You're going to struggle because it's not going to work long term. Trust me when I tell you. It won't work long term. All right. Let's continue on. I'm almost done here. Okay. So it is the most divine spark of ourselves, of the most advanced self we can currently envision, who will reach back through time, if you like, in order to guide us in the most efficient and best way to progress now in order to approach it. And in doing so, it'll give us the power over all of our other faculties and over the world around us. This is the experience of the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, right? Now, notice it said it will reach back through time because it connects you with all aspects of yourself. So when you're doing shadow work, self-realization rites via shadow work, what you're seeing in front of you is a manifestation of all your past experiences in the current moment, in the present moment. So you have to look at that, the good and the bad, and say, how do I take this and how do I go forward with it? And how do I shed from myself these lower aspects, these weaker cells that are holding me back? That's the challenge. So notice it says, the personal daemon, the Holy Guardian Angel, reaches back through time, right? In order to guide you in the most efficient and effective way. It helps you also understand the illusionary aspects of time. Your experiences keep happening, which even your past experiences keep happening. Because that's the concept I've always talked about for years, how time is contracting and expanding. There's no point A to B, no beginning, no end. That's linear illusionary time. We talk about this all the time for the last several years. Part of breaking this mental indoctrination that we all suffer from, one of the key components is breaking the illusion of time, especially linear time, which most people are under the control of. When you go into your subjective consciousness, it's not ruled by no time. It's not governed by no time. Not the time that we use on a clock to calculate. That plays No part or no role at all in any shape, form, or fashion. And I've always used and tried to show you an example of that by breaking down the illusion of that through the second-hand clock, right? Remember, before we went to all this digital and we were dealing with analog, when you looked on a second-hand clock, right, which I think, as I've said in the past, you could still find in public places and government buildings and I think schools. I don't know. I haven't been in a school in so many years, I couldn't tell you. But that's secondhand, which is a mistake. They say secondhand, right, which is not the first. It's the secondhand. And they call the aspect that's calculating these moments of time seconds. And it's a mistake. Because when you look at a second hand on a clock and it goes tick, there's a pause, and then tock. So there's a moment or a space of time between the tick and the tock that is not calculated. So how do you calculate linear time? How do they come up with the equation? And based on just that example alone shows that it's not real. It's artificial. It's fake. But we have been programmed since day one via the Gregorian calendar, through the clock, through minutes, seconds, hours, you name it. This disconnects us from what we talk about all the time of going into the void and the abyss. Because in the void, in the abyss, there is no parameters. There is no calculation of this false, illusionary, linear time. Right? We're caught up in it because it's a system and a methodology that they've established for control. Control of your mind, control of your thoughts, and how you behave and act all falls in line with their concept of linear time. It's fact. So if I put a starting point A and an ending point Z, or a beginning or an end, I've immediately placed you inside the box if you accept it. If you accept it, you're in the box now. You don't get out of it until you say, I don't embrace that no more. I don't accept it. This is why religion is such a masterful control tool. It's such a masterful control tool because it's got you geared, and even those before us, it's got us geared and focused on there's going to be this end point, this climatic ending that's coming. And you're constantly spending and preparing your life and your moments working towards that point. So it keeps you in the box. It keeps you controlled. It keeps your thoughts controlled. Now, when connecting with your holy guardian angel, your personal daemon, or your higher self, this is what I mean when it starts to strip away the illusionary aspects of yourself and everything that's connected to the illusionary aspects of you. Let me say it again. Everything that's connected to the illusionary aspects of you. That could be religions that you embraced in the past, breaking the binds and grips of certain cultural things through your ethnicity that you were raised, that may be binding you and controlling you. Now, if some who come up through a certain ethnicity that has stronger cultural ties, and usually there's religion attached to it, that can be a binding force of the illusionary self, right? And then false aspects of the ego, right? Because as we said before, the ego, destroying the ego altogether, that's not the solution. There's good parts to your ego, and we teach about that on this path. Your ego is what protects you. Your ego is what keeps you sharp. Your ego is what keeps you linked in when you take on that set Lucifer mindset, right? But there's also false illusionary aspects of your ego. I know it all. Nobody's better than me. I'm slinging the biggest dick. I'm laying the heaviest pipe. I got the 14 karat gold pussy. And I laugh at stuff like that because you and a million other women and men are saying the same thing. You know, maybe your ego deceived you because you was knocking down some hoe and you were told that, you know, in the encounter that you got the greatest dick. And she probably said that to fucking 15, 20 other dudes and vice versa. Vice versa. Okay. Those are false aspects of your ego. Okay. Don't feed into those. Because think about this. If you feed into those and you follow them, that goes back to, again, reacting off of pure emotions. Rather than pausing, taking a step back, and looking at this in its complete totality. And that's just a basic example, but you need to do that in all aspects of your life. Am I chasing wants? Is my life in disarray because I spend most of my time chasing wants? And it's just, that's not what's needed in my life. And this is why my life is a mess. This is why I go into ritual for one thing, and then everything gets turned upside down for another. And I can't figure out why. Because the spirit is trying to tell you you're not focused on the right areas of your life that you need to be focused on. I don't give a fuck what you like. So that's the problem. People always talk about what they like, and I like Kali, and I well, maybe Kali don't like your ass. You ever think of that? Maybe Kali just don't like you. What makes you think because you like, maybe Kali don't even want to work with you because maybe she feels you're fucked up and you ain't got your shit in order and you just ain't ready. And she's going to show you you ain't ready by tearing your ass apart. Maybe it's the same thing with Lilith. And then, like I said before, you get, you know, you run into all these females. Everything's sexual with Lilith. Everything's sexual with Kali. Please stop. That shows me even more you're not really on a true level connecting with neither one of them. Because you are just completely eliminating the more important aspects of both of those spirits or demons. And that's transformation and change. That's inner growth. That's really taking the person through aspects of their life and making them address the things they need to address to bring about the change. That you want to throw out the window. And that's the most key components, in this case, to those two particular demons or spirits. Right? You want to just negate all that. And then, you know, I did a ritual with Kali and, you know, I got 14 karat gold pussy now. Everywhere I go, men are falling at my feet. Stop. That shit is so fucking funny to me. It makes me laugh. And I hear this stuff. I'm not just saying this. This is real shit I've heard over the years. Now, you know how many females have emailed me or in person told me that, like it's going to get a reaction out of me? I listen. I've heard it all. Ain't nothing you're going to tell me that's going to catch my attention on any level like that. Nothing. And then I laugh and then I look at them as a whole, and not to be judgmental, yet they got men falling at their feet, 14 karat gold pussy, but their life's a hot mess. Everything about them is a hot mess, from the car they drive to where they live, to their family life, to their relationship with their family, to their personal life, to their business, to their finances. Everything's fucked up. But men is falling at their feet. You show me where that disconnect is. Explain to me where that disconnect is. There's a disconnect there. All right. So let's go through these last sections here. I'm going to skip that. There's one more section I want to go through here, and that's it. And then I'll go through the chat. I think it's towards the end. Hold on. All right, right here. So let's talk about the progression of the Holy Guardian Angel or the personal daemon. All right, hold on. Yeah, this is it right here. So let's talk about the progression of this. In the Apophis club books, I'm talking specifically about Apophis itself and the Draconian consciousness here. When you start looking at the sorts of things surrounding the daemon And the holy guardian angel experience, the core of the experience, tends to take place around the fourth and fifth head. Now, to understand that, you'd have to read the Apophis book by Michael Kelly. And I've recommended that book multiple times over the years. That's a great book for intense shadow work, mastering the seven heads of Leviathan, right? The opening of the eye in the void is what provides a vision which can communicate with this level of inner divinity. So how are you going to open the eye in the void unless you go into the void? So understanding the concept of the Klippa and the Sitra Akra and how Lilith guides the individual, because she's one of the key components on the tree of Klippa with Samael, right? She guides the initiate through the void. Guides the initiate through the void so you can do what it's describing here. Opening the eye in the void. Because when you open the eye in the void, you're looking at things totally different now. You don't look at them the same way. You don't see it the same way. You don't experience it the same way. This is called real work on this path. It's not what people think it is. There's so much bullshit out there. I can't stress enough. That labels itself as left-hand path and occult. And I just got to be honest with you. I'm sorry, it's not. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it misleads some people because they think they're doing occult left-hand path work, and they're basically doing a watered-down left-hand New Age fluffy bunny aspect of it, thinking they're doing real intense work. And I'm not saying that to be judgmental. I'm saying if you want to play fluffy bunny, then stay fluffy bunny. Because on this path, I can't stress it enough. You can't straddle the fence on this path. You'll get hurt. Trust me when I tell you, you will get hurt. And it'll mess you up in a real bad way because you're playing dangerous games. You're lighting the candle at both ends. You want to be fluffy and new agey and all that stuff, but then you want to play dark and occultish and left-hand path when it's convenient for you. I've seen that all too many times over the years. It's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for conflict and confusion in your life. Trust me when I tell you. And it's not a pleasant thing when you're not ready to deal with it. It creates inconsistencies in your life. It can create problems with those who are in your life, from your immediate spouse to your family, your children. It can affect and facilitate into all areas of your life, your work, your business, your career, your profession, whatever it is. Okay? So I'm saying don't do it to yourself. That's what I meant when I used to say years ago, this is the only path you can't come on and fake the funk. You could do it with every other path, right? You want to play comedic, grow your hair natural, a big fro, put on some smell goods, a dashiki, and a big ass ankh. Oh man, when people look, oh, that person's conscious. Why? Because they have an afro and a big ass ankh on and wearing some African clothing. So you immediately got fooled out the gate. How do you know that ain't a rotten, fucked up person? You're basing it on how they look and what they're wearing. That's determining your decision on what type of person that is. That's comical to me. Because I've looked at just some ordinary looking person, young or old. I've experienced this, and in talking to them, found out, man, they were more LinkedIn than I thought. And because I might have looked at them as an ordinary Joe, assuming, notice the three first letters in that word assuming is what? Ass, A-S-S. And that's what you do when you assume. You make an ass out of yourself, right? Because you are assuming, based on how that person looks, what you think they are. And I've mentioned in the past, I met in my years going back in my travels in the Rosicrucian order, when I got up into the temple degrees and saw and worked with some of the high priests in the temple degrees. And I was amazed at what type of people I was there, because if I saw these people on the outside, I'm saying in the way that they carried themselves, I would have never known. It's that old saying, real bad boys move in silence, right? You don't have to tell everybody everything. that you think you know or know. You don't have to project yourself egotistically and put on 15 African beads and conscious bling jewelry and stress how conscious and woke you are all the time, because that's confirmation to me how conscious and woke you're not. You understand what I'm saying? And you'd be surprised. So don't do that, because that can fool you, right? So when you look in through the eye of the void and you open your eye inside the void, it takes on a whole different meaning, all right? It is what provides a vision which can communicate with this level of inner divinity. And in the fifth head, when you start to really recreate yourself, because by looking and opening the eye in the void, now you see the real you. And you also can clearly identify what is it about yourself you need to correct and fix. So as it says here, you now are able to start to really recreate yourself, remanifest yourself, right? And remanifest yourself into the god or the goddess that you're destined to be and supposed to be. Because now you have the awareness, whereas before you didn't, because you might have been so caught up in Buddhism, or you didn't because you were a Santeria freak, right? You were so subservient to Santeria, and all you did was serve, and do everything you were told. And the Babalao or the Madrino or the Padrino said you needed to do this. And then after you were done with that, oh, you got to do this ritual. Oh, after you've done that, the Rishi said they want you to do this. Oh, after you've done that, you got to do. It's never ending. It's serve, subservient, and be a slave. At what time does it stop? They don't want it to stop, because you got to keep feeding the machine. You got to keep feeding them the money, because if you figured out how to do it for yourself, there would be no need for them. And that's why I say self-initiation is the most powerful practice, because it eliminates the middleman. It eliminates the bloodsuckers and the leeches that are feeding off of you financially. And it gets people mad when they hear me say stuff like that, because yes, they could talk shit and say, oh, that dude's crazy. He don't know what he's talking about. They're saying that because they're trying to take attention off themselves, because they don't want that money coming out of their damn pocket. That's why. Because I'm telling you this from being initiated in Ifa, it never ended, and that's what I got tired of. Oh, you get your collars, your lekes. All right, you get your warriors, right? God, you got your warriors. You get your hand of a ruler. Okay, then I needed to get my mejes, my twins. Okay, I did that. Oh, now you need to do this offering for Oshun. Oh, your ancestors are requesting this. Oh, before you get crowned, you need to do this. Oh, before you do that, we have to get this taken care of. Oh, you did that. This is what the spirit is requesting. Oh, you didn't. It's like, when does it end? It's like a never-ending money machine. And how are you really growing? You're becoming a slave. It's no different than a Christian that serves Jesus and God in the form and concept of Christianity. It's no different than the Muslim who's a slave to Allah. It's no different than the Jew who's a slave to Yahweh or Hashem or whatever, Elohim, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Because there's always rules and regulations and guidance and shit you have to do. And if you don't do it, something's going to go wrong. Something bad's going to happen. You must do it. I always tell you that. You must do it. And I started to realize, and being, as they say in Ifa, a son of Oshun, I started to realize I was able to connect with Oshun and didn't have to do any of that traditional shit. Now, the traditionalists will say he's crazy. He don't know what he's talking about. Based on what? On the tradition of your houses and what you were brought up in? That's all you can really combat it with. Yes, I understand there's a lineage. Yes, you trace it back, especially in Palo. I understand that. But when you have the knowledge and the awareness, I could still work with my Ganga and have power with it. I don't need to feed it blood all the time. Yes, feeding it blood makes it stronger, no doubt. But what I'm saying is when the individual finds methods, there's only one thing that can refute all that and shut it all down, and is basically results. So if I say something that the traditionalist goes, that's wrong, that's incorrect, they have a right to that opinion. They have a right to make that statement, no doubt. But if I say, well, I hear what you're saying, but this is what I did, this is what manifested and happened, and I got the results. that I was desiring. So now we got another problem. Because you're saying that if you don't do it this specific way, according to that traditional system, it's wrong. But how is that when I have living proof through the results that it's not? See, that's what they don't want you to do. Because then you would stop going to these people and pissing away all your money and your life savings. Shit. I'm hearing some people taking out second mortgages on their houses to get crowned. That's fucking nuts to me. Kiss my ass. I would never do that shit. Now, granted, back then it was much cheaper. You know, back then, shit, and I know it's tripled and doubled. I mean, tripled and quadrupled. Back then, to do a crowning with Oshun, I think maybe it was $6,000, 6,500, just under $7,000. Now I'm hearing shit like $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 to do that shit. Even more. I'm hearing even numbers higher than that. That's crazy. And I'm hearing people taking out second mortgages on their houses. That's fucking nuts. Because you know what? Now, don't get me wrong. And I've mentioned this before, not to stay on this too long. I've mentioned this before. There are a lot of good people who have good intent in those systems. And I was fortunate to come up, and I was fortunate to have good godparents in Ifa/Santeria, Palo. I was very fortunate. And I left on good terms, and I still periodically communicate with my godmother. She may not agree with where I'm at, but we have a mutual respect. So I have no animosity towards them. I just got to a point in the journey where I needed to go my own way, right? And that's what I mean when I say for years, at what point does the student let go of the teacher's hands or the master's hand and become the master themselves? Do you want to be a student your whole life? Do you want to be somebody who serves the master their whole life? At what point don't you desire to become the master? Isn't that the goal? Because the thing is, once you become the master, then you have no permanent use anymore on that level for the master, right? Because that's a Sith principle too, by the way, right? That's one of the key things that's rooted in Sith philosophy, and we talk about that. So when I ask everybody out here, everybody that's on this platform, everybody that's been following this platform, you need to look yourself in the mirror and say, when am I going to stop being the student and become the master? It's crazy. Crazy. All right, last thing, then I'm going to go to the chat. Where was it? Very last. I don't know. I think that might have been it, actually. Yeah, that was pretty much it. Again, there's more. I just kind of wanted to touch on, and let me leave it with this. Let me do a summary of this real quick, and then I'll go in the chat, and we'll stay in there for a little bit before we wrap this up. So, as the title of the video states, the Holy Guardian Angel and the Personal Daemon, are they the same? And the answer is yes and no. The concept of them in different systems varies the way they explain it, but they're the same in the sense the purpose and the concept of them is to be that tutelary guide, as it mentioned in the Apophis lecture series number 39 there, Conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel, which I've encouraged people to get. The concept is the same, right? But the method and approach, like how we work with it, let's say through the left-hand path or different methods of the occult, is going to be a bit different of how Crowley, explained it in Thelema. He explained a little more worded, for lack of a better word, a little more simplified aspect of it that, to me, in my opinion, still had some religious overtones to it. And then you can go back into, as I said in the beginning, into monotheistic faiths such as Catholicism and Christianity, where they always have presented that we have guardian angels or guardian spirits, right? But they present it in a very mythological and fictitious way. I think we've smashed that tonight by showing how you activate that innermost divinity or spark that innermost divinity, all right? So let me go up. If you got some questions or some comments, the comments to a degree, for time's sake, I'd rather get to the questions, but I'll try to point out some of the comments, especially if they're relative to what we're talking about here tonight. So if you have any questions or thoughts or comments in relation to what we discussed here tonight, type it in. This would be the time to put that in there. And let's discuss it. So I hope this topic, and I thank the person, I can't remember who it was, couple lives ago. It wasn't the last one. I think it was the one before, that sparked me to gave the suggestion to do this video, because I think it was a well-timed and well-needed subject. And I know nothing is a coincidence, because that person brought it up, and I'm like, wow, this is in line with everything we're doing in the shadow work class on Patreon, right? This is connecting with everything. And one thing I can tell you, being guided by that personal daemon all the time, it's what guides my rituals. It always seems, not in a spooky, puff the magic dragon, poof, snap your fingers way, but I noticed throughout the year when we're doing work on Patreon and here in person live, everything flows in consistency and harmony, and everything connects together. And we're not forcing it. We're not over projecting it or planning it. We're just being consistent at what we do. And it's always like the spirits and the demons are opening the doors. They're connecting the dots for us. They're pushing us in the right direction. Not that they're doing it all for us. They're pushing us in the right direction. And like, but we got to do the work, right? We have to apply the work. But it always seems like we're pointed in the right direction that we need to be. That's when you're activating that innermost divinity. All right, let's talk about what we got here. Let's see what we got. All right, so I see something here by Slim Lewis. I've heard a lot of occultists saying lately, but if you work for too long or too much with demonic spirits without also working with angelic spirits, you can burn out your divine spark. True. So let me answer that first. I've always taught that remember, understanding the Lucifer energy is understanding the harmonious formula you need for light and darkness. Yes, you must know what energies counter-react that to keep your innermost divinity, as we're talking about here, sparked. Your personal daemon will let you know if you're doing long, intense periods of dark magic and dark work. Yes, you better follow that up with some regeneration, some cleansing, some grounding, and some healing energy. And if you want to call it lighter energies, yes. And the myth that's on this, that people have about on this path, and not you, Slim Lewis, but the myth that some people have is they think that everything we do is dark and gloomy. They don't think we work, even though I sit here and make light of and have fun with the fluffy paths, we do incorporate that. We do work with those lighter energies and spirits, but we don't negate the fact it all has its root from the primordial chaotic darkness. You must start there. But your spirit will tell you when it's time to shift. And I've always said for years, and people that are in the mentorship program and are on Patreon taking the classes, that's what the Klapothic yoga, Kundalini, awakening, and meditation class is about. Showing you how you have to seek the right balance and formula. And we've done 4 of them, I think. We're getting ready to do class number 5. I'm showing you the importance of meditation, mantras, healing. Specific mantras for each chakra is very important, because repairing the chakras is key, because that can dim, quote unquote, your spark. I also show you how you work with specific archetypes that deal with healing, regeneration, and renewal. For an example, Geb in ancient Egypt. Now, whether you want to call them, in this case, as you using that term, angelic beings. Now, I don't really work with, I know some people work with the Kabbalah or the Kabbalah, and they work with like archangels. And I'm not saying if that's what you do, that's what you do. Because you got to be careful in those paths, because it still ties you into Hebrew mysticism and religion. I don't really mess with that. I'm not knocking anybody that does. But for the sake of the basic point of your question, most definitely, you need to have that harmony and formula of working with dark and light energy. Okay, that's fact. Okay, what the hell's going on here? Oh, they just keep changing randomly. That's fact, though. But that you are correct. And your spirit, if you're in tune with yourself, or in this case, your holy guardian angel, or your personal daemon, or your higher true self, it will communicate to you. Look, you just went through an intense period of dark work. I go through that all the time. Last year, doing a year-long working as something every month for weeks with Lucifer. This year, I'm working specifically with feminine, demonic feminine energy for the entire year. But there's a deeper purpose to it. But my spirit will communicate to me, take a break, take a pause, or you need to do this. So yes, that understanding comes through with how sharp you become as a magician or an occultist. But yes, the answer to your question is most definitely yes. All right. Yes, and you're right. It can create fear, because when it creates fear when you go to one extreme than the other. That's where it becomes a problem. So yes, when it's those who are super light and fluffy, that they just fear working with any dark and intense. Yes, it is. It's exactly what you described in that next comment. But also on the flip side, some of us who are on the left-hand path in the occult, right? Because we're working with a different type of energy and power when you're working with darker or doing more intense work. And I hate to just use that word darker, because that can be taken out of context too. It can affect you more spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And you need to understand that and know how to work and regenerate yourself. So yes, when you take that line in between is what I'm trying to say, and don't get caught up in one more than the other, you're going to be more successful than the average person. All right. Adam, that question, there's a lot of components to that. And I know we've talked about that in the past. It just depends on what you're trying to do, right? And it's too long to get into that here. And how I do that, I wouldn't explain that openly. But in a nutshell, anything is possible how you line it up to be what you want it to be. Okay? It can be all of those things that you're describing and none of those things. One, it just depends on the person who's doing it, their knowledge and understanding of how to do it, and what it's being designed for. You can't gauge that from what you read, from what somebody might have told you, or maybe what you researched, because that's going to be vary from an individual to individual, depending on the person who's doing the work. That's the difference. So what you're doing basically there, unfortunately, you're kind of making it more complex to yourself and your mind. It could be any of those things you described and none of those things. It's all about the power of the person creating it and their understanding and their connection with the spirits. And sometimes the things that you want created, it has to be the person that's in line with that path too. That's another important thing. So all those things have to be considered in regards to that. But there's more to it, but that would take up too much time in a forum like this. All right. What else we got? Jenny, greetings. Vision, I saw you got my message from earlier. Slim Lewis says, because I connect so much with Lucifer, I started going into Michael W. Ford's material. Is there any of his work you strongly disagree with? I wouldn't say I strongly disagree with. Is there some stuff? I don't use that term. Is there stuff that he has and others that I would say I'm just not in alignment with or don't resonate with? Yes. There are some things, and just in my opinion, there's more things that he puts out that I am in agreement with. He has a lot of great work. I would consider exploring majority of his work. There's just a few things that it just depends, scattered about, maybe on Luciferianism, that comes off a little bit religious. But again, my approach, not just with Michael W. Ford, my approach, just like, it's no different. People might look at my work and look at my channel, and there's going to be they might feel the same way, that there's just things they don't resonate with and connect. And that's okay. That's fine. Because as I've said before in the past, I would be a complete fool to think that everybody's going to agree 100% in line with everything I say, just like Michael W. Ford or anybody else would be foolish to think the same, right? So I teach people to grasp and the things you resonate with, build upon that. That should be your focus. The stuff that you don't connect with, I just don't deal with it. That's it. So I would more so strongly encourage people, and for years I've mentioned many of his books over the years in many different classes. You okay, buddy? Yeah, I'm just getting one. I've always strongly put out a lot of suggestions, so I most definitely would have more of an encouragement approach to check out his work more than anything. And you decipher with him or anybody else. You're going to read stuff and go, I'm feeling that. I'm resonating with it. I'm going to explore it further. Then you're also going to look at stuff with him, others, and even including myself. I'm just not resonating with it. And that's okay. All right. That's okay. All right. What else we got here? Would exploring a HGA be beneficial to someone who is crowned with an Orishi? I know there are different systems, but I'm wondering if that could piss off one's Orishi. Again, I understand your statement about pissing off one's Orishi. I would have to, Jinjini, I would have to ask you, when you say that the way you express that and that statement comes from somewhere that was instilled, and obviously rooted through some traditional aspect of working with the Orishi. So it would depend. If you say pissing off one's Orishi in the traditional sense, yes, the traditionalist is going to tell you, yes, it would. But the more important thing in that question is it's about your approach and your mentality. If you believe and accept that concept, then yes, it's going to resonate through the very core of your being, and you're going to believe that and accept it. Look, it doesn't piss off your Orishi in any way as long as that's not your intent. It's not just with the Orishi. I've always said you approach the spirits and the demons with respect for them and respect for yourself, right? So from a traditional perspective, yes, they're going to tell you that. And I say they, the traditionalists is what I mean when I say they. But if you are on this path of self-mastery and you're the goddess in control, right? Then it's what you say that's the beneficial factor and weighs out everything else. And what you're going to have to do is just disregard what the traditionalists and what mainstream and what the thought process of mainstream is in regards to that. Okay? If your intent isn't to piss off your Orishi, I would ask, and I'm not asking this to be, wise or trying to be a smart ass. I would ask, piss the Orishi off in what way? You understand? Okay. It's just impossible. If you think about it, look at it through that context. Okay. And then a lot of it has to do with, and I'm just not just speaking this to you, I'm speaking in relation to your question, so others also can look at this in a bigger perspective. It also has a lot to do with where you're at in your spiritual journey at the moment. What type of work you're doing, your level of understanding is going to really have a strong factor which shapes your perspective on something like that, right? And I say that, not just to you, to everybody. All right, so hopefully that helps you. To Slim Lewis, Asenath Mason, some authors and books in regards to digging deep into Lucifer. There's several books by Asenath Mason you can look into. Also look into some good, Richard K. Page is another author I would suggest. He has a very wide open, broad perspective of working the Luciferian energy and working with Lucifer. He's another great author. Michael W. Ford, R.H. Dunn. These are just some of the ones that come right off the top of the head. And then obviously Michael W. Ford, as you're already looking into. Yeah, I mean, those are great places to start. That's like 5 right there. And they've put out over the years a good amount of work. So I think, and look into even Michael Kelly tonight. Put Michael Kelly on that list because he's got a good concept of working with various different deific masks of the adversary, Set, Lucifer, you name it. So I definitely look at his work too. All right. What else we got? Yeah, well, see that Jenny, that's the same thing, like there. Yeah, you're always instructed in Ifa, you shouldn't wear your beads. My godmother, that's one of the first things my godmother told me. They should always be inside your shirt. Now, there's a lot of, traditionally it's wrong, it's disrespectful. You don't want nobody touching your beads because they do carry a certain amount of energy. But again, this is what I'm trying to get you to see, and maybe others listening in the same perspective. That's a lot of traditional stuff. Think about this for a minute. And really, honestly, from where I'm at now in my journey, I couldn't care if you're wearing them inside your shirt or out because it doesn't mean anything to me at this point. But let's just say you're wearing them outside your shirt. Somebody touches them, or let's just say the person that says you shouldn't wear them outside the shirt because it's disrespectful. It's no different than the Christian who believes if you're not saved by the blood of Christ, you're going to hell. You understand what I'm saying? I'm using that example. If you start believing these concepts, they become real. That's what I'm trying to get you to see. But as simply as you accepted them and they became real, it's just as simple as to reject them and destroy the mythology behind them is what I'm trying to get you to see. So in a nutshell, I'm only saying that stuff only holds weight if you accept that stuff. If you accept the traditional concepts on that stuff. Now, yeah, it falls in the line of it's disrespectful, this and that, and I get it. So if there's a moral thing behind it, that's fine. But I'm just saying, in essence, on this path, to me, it doesn't really mean anything now. But if you would have asked me that years ago when I was in that traditional path, I would be in agreement with that because that's what I was taught. That's what I was instructed. But really, at the end of the day, if you're wearing your basic collars or lekes that you receive when you first get your lekes, what? Lego's going to get mad? Obatala, Yamaya, Oshun, Shango, they're going to get mad because they're outside your shirt? Where does it say? Where's that written? I'm not talking about where it's passed through traditional lines and traditional houses of Ocha. I'm saying where's that been documented? And here's the deeper thing. That's why I did videos on this, and I haven't done them in a while. But the way we practice a lot of these customs and traditions, remember the way we practice Santeria, which is basically a watered down version of true Ifa, is not the same way as it's practiced in the Ife in Nigeria. You got to remember here they infused all the Orishi together under one system called Santeria, right? Or Ifa here in America. It's not how it is over in Africa. When you are, through divination, coined as the son or daughter of a particular Orishi, you spend your whole life devoting to that particular Orishi. Not that you don't know about the others, but they're not infused and all put together like it is here. So it's different. So now my thing would be, you don't find any of those traditions like that linked into, say, Ifa in Nigeria, right? But it is here in America. Where does that come from? Is the next question I would point. I've asked these questions in the past, and I got no legitimate answer. All I've gotten is the way we've been doing it for years. That's the tradition of this lineage. All right, I get all that, but that's not what I asked. Where is the documented, undisputed, factual evidence on that? Nobody can provide it. You want to know why? Because it just doesn't exist, is what I'm trying to say. All right. Primordial mysticism. Did you learn about Luciferianism through Freemasonry, or did you discover it on your own? Not so much through Freemasonry. Though there are, like my lodge, for an example, has an esoterical and occult, an esoterical occult society where we touch esoterical and occult topics. I would say that might have pushed me in the area to look a little deeper and darker. But I can't say particularly that the lodge dealt with it directly. Now, there were other people on the side that you met over the years in Masonry that were dabbling in it. So I would say indirectly, the lodge had a small influence on that, and it pushed me in the direction, but basically just through my searches. As I just started studying, as the internet grew, obviously that was a big tool, because going back years ago, well, not years ago, but when the internet started to become more prominent after the AOL days, remember the dial-up days of you got mail. Remember the dial-up shit would take about 5 minutes to connect. I would say in the very late 90s, early 2000s is probably when I started to shift and leave a lot of the, not that I left it alone, but at that time I was heavily into ancient Egyptian studies, Sumerian studies, Santeria, Ifa. When I started shifting more into Luciferian witchcraft and magic, I would probably trace it back to that time. But as the internet grew, and just my curiosity, just searching, a used bookstore that I used to go to years back, that was a key factor. And I always encourage people, if you can find, and reminds me, I got one here I haven't been to in a while. Used bookstores, that you always find some hidden gems. And that bookstore fortunately had an occult section, and I found some really good old books in there. And that was a driving force years back that inspired me to look further into Luciferianism and the occult and the left-hand path. So more so just by being inquisitive, nothing really, but the lodge indirectly, I would say there was some very minor elements there, but can't really say it did though. All right. Next question by you. What are the signs one has attained the knowledge and conversation or union with the holy guardian angel? And back to Jinjini's question, that's why I can't see how would the holy guardian angel piss your Orishi off, because the holy guardian angel, right, is no different than, let's just say, when you go, now it depends what house is, and not to stay on the Santeria Ifa thing, but it's no different when you have, like in my house, we used to have a thing we used to call misas, where we used to contact the Eguns. And that's contact. And in that process, you would contact, spirits would manifest that walked with you, that were guardian spirits. And I teach people through ancestral work, you have bloodline ancestral spirits and you have ancestral spirit guides. They're not necessarily connected to you by blood. You're taught this in Ifa. What do you think Alan Kardec's work is in the spiritism, right? That is different aspects or methods to connect with your holy guardian angel. And that's why I just can't see, and I understand you just asked, it's a good question. I just can't see how that would do that, right? It just doesn't make sense. But to your question, what is the difference, how you would know? Nobody can really sit down and tell you that there's a certain point. How you know is when, beyond a shadow of a doubt, you see that change within yourself. You're getting clear, concise communication from the spirits, right? You're more in tune with that inner being or inner voice that you constantly communicate with. Even before you're on this path, go listen to your intuition. Well, your intuition is just another polite term for your holy guardian angel or your personal daemon, right? You should never go against that. It was my intuition or holy guardian angel, for an example, that told me it was time to move on from Ifa and Santeria. I can't not listen to that. And it doesn't mean I disconnected my relationship with the Orishi, because I haven't. I just don't work with them in that traditional conformist way. Like on my ancestral altar, and most people would tell you in Ifa, you don't put an Oshun on your ancestral altar, but she is an ancestral spirit guide. I know that now. So any guardian spirit, I have a Congo spirit on there. I have a warrior gladiator spirit that was revealed to me in a past life. Those are all part or fragments of your holy guardian angel, your personal daemon. They are fragments. It's all connected. That gets into, I did a video on that a couple of years ago. I think it's called the fragments, different fragments of your holy daemon or some shit like that. I can't remember the title. It was a video from a couple of years ago. But that's what made me transition into the change. Because as you connect, as it said in there, with that inner divinity, that divine, it's going to guide you in the direction you need to go. And look, everybody that's in here that came from previous systems, I don't care if it was Ifa, Santeria, Buddhism, Kabbalah, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, it all served the purpose to get you to where you are now. And you must understand that. But if you stay stuck in those limited systems, you're going to have what we call tunnel vision. And it's going to be hard for you to really progress and move forward because you're still going to be heavily influenced by those paths. And that's why I was saying, I started really pushing that in 2019. It's very important we release the old paradigms in order for us to evolve and manifest into what we're destined to become. Right? So I have a whole altar set up for Voodoo that I still work with. I have an altar exclusively for the Orishi. You guys on the Patreon seen it. I did a whole altar series, right? I have an altar set up strictly for working with the Egyptian gods and goddesses. It's a Heka altar. And then I have my black magic altar. I work with my spirits. And the Holy Guardian Angel is the one that gives you the guidance for that. I know how to group those pantheons. They all serve a purpose, but I'm not a slave to them. I control and command the work I do with them. They don't control me. When you become exclusive to one and say, for an example, oh, I can only be Kemetic or I can only be Ifa, now you've just disconnected yourself off to the unlimited possibilities of your spiritual growth. Because all of those things are you and you are all those things, not the reverse. When you're inferior to those things, then you're controlled by those things. And I found out Oshun don't want me to be a slave. You understand? I'm not a slave to Oshun. You understand? Because I know the path, my personal, because remember, when you get crowned, there's different paths. You have a specific path that's identified by name that you really shouldn't be too open with everybody about, in my opinion. And you connect with it on that level. Now there's different paths. Let's get into something else. But my whole point being is when you're at that level, okay, to your original question, you'll see the results. Everything just seems to be clicking and flowing and in harmony. So, it's like that term people call an aha moment, for an example. You just know it's a feeling. It starts to resonate through every aspect of your being. That's the telltale confirmation that you've made that connection. All right. And then the second part of your question, which is a good question, what is the difference between demonic integration and shadow work? Well, they're connected. They both go hand in hand. Demonic integration work is integrating yourself through things we discussed tonight, especially in this excerpt from the Holy Guard conversation with the Holy Guardian Angel. It's the work that you do as described, say, for an example, working with the 7 heads of Leviathan. It's work that you do with the intent and focus to integrate with your higher or true self. And shadow work has to be in that equation because it cannot be excluded out of the factor. So they're connected. They work hand in hand together. Similarities, but a bit different, because the shadow work now, in order to really be connected to that higher self, you're identifying, you're uncovering the shadow of the hidden self to specifically identify areas about yourself that you need to work on and improve and continue to sharpen areas that are your strengths. So that's the difference. But they do go hand in hand and they're connected to each other. In my opinion, you really can't do one without the other. All right. Yeah, I think I see a comment, Jenny, about Kali. Yeah, that's the thing that kills me, man. And I find, and a lot of other practitioners will tell you the same thing. Lilith is not an easy spirit to connect with, right? I use her as an example. The Kali thing, right? Lilith is the same way, and people will tell you. Now, there's different aspects of Lilith, just like there's different paths of Kali. Right? There's not just one Kali, right? There's Kali Durga, which I find That's the path of Kali that I'm more connected to. That's a very destructive and powerful path of Kali. It's a very intellectual and knowledgeable aspect of Kali. It's the tough love mother of Kali that I've talked about over the years that basically, if it wants to teach you how to swim, teaches you by just throwing you into the pool, swim, right? That's the type of Kali through Kali Durga that I have connected with over the years. And I've found out people got to get out of this egotistical bullshit with how they think they're special. And because the way I hear people describe Kali, for an example, or Lilith, I laugh because I'm like, not saying they connected with something, but I don't know if I would per se say in some cases, not all, in some cases I would say they connected with Kali or Lilith. In this case, I would have to disagree. And I say that based on the fact when everything is just sexual, for an example, when everything is the mother goddess, right? There's this fluffy new age version of Lilith and Kali that's comical to me. When it's just about the mother goddess and this female energy and sex energy. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't true. I'm not saying to an extent that stuff isn't real. But when it's the only thing the person is talking about in relation to a spirit or a deity like that, I would have to be in strong disagreement. Because I'm like, where's the transformational changing aspect of the spirit? What has it done in your life to change you? What did you learn in connecting and working with the spirit? What changes did it bring about in your life specifically? And what awareness and knowledge and understanding did you come to via by way of connecting with this spirit? That's the shit I'm looking for when I'm talking. And that's what I look for when I work with the spirits. It's no different in ritual. And and people sometimes get it fucked up and twisted with me because when they say I did a ritual and and as I was doing the ritual, I heard this sound and I looked ahead and then I saw this. All right, that's cool. That's all the aesthetic stuff. And that exists. That's part of ritual. But I asked the core question, what did you learn about yourself from that ritual? What awareness did it give you? What change did it bring about in your life to better you? That ties into one of the most important things that is all centered around results. Because if you can't clearly explain that, then I'd have to put into question, you better go back and evaluate what you did. I don't want to just hear about, and then this, I saw this shadow and then this feeling came over me and all right, I get all that. That's cool and everything. But what did you learn? And if you can't answer that right out the gate, that's a problem. It's a problem in the sense that you might want to go back and reevaluate and question what it is you're doing. Look, I've seen all that. I get it. I've had many personal experiences and rituals by seeing imagery through sound, through vibration, through feeling, sight, all of those things. That's subjective in nature, and that's subjective in nature, and it's personal for you because it was an integral part of your personal experience, and you should store that in the root of your mind because you'll be able to pull that out when needed. But what I'm trying to say is, let's look at the meat of it. When you did a ritual, what was the intent of the ritual? Okay, now the intent of the ritual, did the results manifest based on the intent of the ritual? And how? And that how should be linked into what you learned about yourself, what awareness it opened up to you, what you learned about the spirit and how it bring about the change that gave you the results. If you can't line it up with that, then I don't know what the fuck you did. You did something. I'm not saying you didn't, because obviously you did something. But what is it? What weight does it? What clout does it really hold as far as your growth? That's what I would have to ask you. So just because somebody puts on a black robe every night, lights some black candles, and says some invocations to Lucifer, that may not do absolutely anything for him. Because what's the intent? What's the purpose? What were we aiming for? What was the goal? What were you trying to accomplish? And did you accomplish it? If you did, kudos to you. I'll give you a round of applause. If you didn't, reevaluate is all I'm saying.
All right. All right, what else we got? Here's where I left off. Sorry, it skipped on me. Wow. So, yeah, so I saw also you typed in here. Solano Congo Real. All right. Shout out to you. Salam alaikum. Yeah, so 10 grand back in 2006 for a Yemaya initiation. That sounds about right. Because the 6,500. Now, also, you have to factor in, again, not to get back on this too heavy, each Orishi they vary in price because some are more elaborate in cost based on what's needed to carry out a full initiation or crowning. Now, remember, when done right, usually you have to spend 7 full days in the throne room for most. You have to stay in there 7 days before you can even leave. And there's 7 days in that case. There's a lot of supplies and materials that's needed. The throne room itself can be very expensive to build. The clothing that's designed is very special that you wear for your crowning. That in itself can be very costly and expensive. The ingredients that's needed for the amiaros, the herbs, and any of the other things that has to be carried out, like cleansings, that like for Oshun, cleansings and baths down by the water. And then obviously a lot depends on, usually in most houses, including mine, you have a real big final misa prior to your crowning. Really reveals a lot of things you need to be aware of moving forward. And unfortunately, a lot of it's do's and don'ts. It can be very, very expensive, but from what I'm hearing now, I can't see how it's that. I mean, how they've jacked it up, because obviously there's a hustle and a money game going on. And I know a lot of people are going out of the country, places like Cuba and Haiti, because they'll do it there for a lot cheaper. I remember in Voodoo and Voodoo, something I almost did, a Haitian priestess that I was dealing with at the time wanted to actually take me to Haiti, and that was back in 2003. I didn't do it. Long story. But I do know people go to places like that because they'll do it for half the price. But unfortunately, it's changed. Things have changed as time has gone on. It's changed. Because I again, 6,500 to 7,000 back in the late 90s, the very early 2000. I know that's what a going rate at my time was for Oshun. Then it depends on the house too. That has a lot to do with it too, because some houses have their ways of doing things. So it can be very expensive. I know there's some orishis that are very elaborate that cost a lot more. So it all depends. All right. But 10,000, yeah, that sounds about right. All right, what else we have? All right, call me. Congo Real, send me an email with the number. I don't think I have that number anymore. Email is in the description box of the video. So send me your number. All right. No problem, you. Oh, okay. So I see your question down here. Hopefully I don't butcher your name. It'll be yes, Kali Durga. I've actually did, and go into the archives here on the channel, I've done classes on that. We've done rituals with Kali Ma, and we've done rituals with Kali Durga. Those are private on the Patreon page, though. I don't post open rituals there. So yes, I have that's part of the curriculum on the in some of the work we've done through the Patreon page, most definitely. Okay. I do, with your other statement here, Jenny, I do think that traditionalists do say that
to control you. I do. Because I found, and I can only speak from my experience and my journey. Now, I've met in those systems, I've met some open-minded people who are open-minded, that you could hold wider range of conversations. Then I met some very strict, traditional old heads who they weren't budging, right? You couldn't even, they were so heavy into the tradition that if you said anything outside of it, oh, they go into uproar. Now, the house I came up with, and my godmother is Puerto Rican. My godfather, Impalo, is my godmother's biological brother. He's Puerto Rican. And the deep thing about that is he doesn't really partake in Ifa or Santeria. He strictly Palo Mayembe, which was a good thing for me because I got a good, strong, focused dose of that because, as I've said before over the years, Palo Mante is basically influenced by Ifa and Santeria. They basically align all of the major orishis, and they say it's the darker aspects of those spirits, like, Mama Cholo, Mama Huerte, Santarayo, all of those things, right? I was fortunate in my house, and I was grateful because I didn't deal with a lot of bullshit, and there's a lot of fuckery that goes on. There's a lot of backbiting, people talking shit, competition, and that's everywhere, and it's there too. Because I watched and witnessed a lot of the hating on my godmother. There was a lot of hating on her because there's a lot of people doing the same thing and there's competition. So a lot of it depends on the house that you come up in, okay? Now, I was fortunate in my house. Like my godfather in Palo, Javier, he was very open-minded and he studied other, and it was beautiful because, yes, he was a Palero, but he studied a lot of other systems of spirituality. So we could have good conversation about Egypt. We could have good conversations about, some of the Hindu left-hand path, such as deities like Kali, Shiva, and things of that nature. He was very knowledgeable about all that. So I was fortunate. My godmother, too, she was the same way. But there's some houses where everything is very traditional, and it's almost like a religion, like it could be even stricter than Christianity. And I keep telling people, when you're in a traditional house, you got no choice but to follow the rules. You don't stay there. When you make the intent to be traditionally initiated, right? You have to follow the rules and regulations of the house you're being initiated in. And this is why I laugh when a lot of people on the left-hand path and the occult send me emails and go, hey, do you think I should get initiated in Ifa? I can't tell you that. And I'm not going to tell you that. All I can tell you is you better be prepared to follow the rules and the regulations. You can't just do what you want and as you please. It don't work like that. So that's what I meant earlier when I said, if you're stuck in traditional paths and you're trying to be on this path of self-mastery, it can create inner conflict because it's almost like you're torn between the two. You feel an allegiance to the traditional side, and it disrupts what you can accomplish on this side. This is why I've taught people over the last several years how to work with the Orishis and work with the Palo spirits in a non-traditional way. It can be done. Don't let them tell you it can't. They'll tell you it's wrong from a traditional perspective, but that's expected. Well, of course they're going to say that. But I can show them the other side. You can get results doing it. And all I give a shit about is results. I don't care about any of that stuff. But yes, they do say things like that to control you. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, that's correct, Congo Real. There is no, like I said, if you go over to the way, even with Babalawas, here's the funny thing. If you deal with a Babalawo, and be careful because there's scamming Babalawas that come out of Africa and come over here and try to feed off of people's energy and money. So be careful. But I will tell you this. I've dealt with Babalawas from Cuba, and one Babalawo I dealt with over the years, real good Babalawo. He was Cuban. But they're influenced too by a lot of tradition. And I've also dealt with a Babalawo straight from Benin in Nigeria, and it's a little different. It's not done the same way. Like, for an example, in some houses of Santeria, I always ask people, like, how did you find out? What method was used for you to find out who was the guardian angel? And notice they call it in Santeria the guardian angel that rules your head. There's that term again, right? So you can't get around it. In Santeria, that's what they use, and that's what was used in my house. Who is the Orishi, or the guardian angel, as they call it, that rules your head? Well, one rules your body and one rules your head, but you find out the body part before you go through your crowning. But the first thing is you find out who rules the head. And I've had some people tell me over the years, well, my madrina or my padrino did it. That's not the right way to do it. Well, what system of divination did they use? And I've heard all types of crazy shit. And then I heard a Babalawo did it. And I was like, just one Babalawo did it? And, oh, well, it was a Babalawo and my godmother and my godfather. So that's not the way it's done. The correct way to find out the Orisha that rules your head, there must be 3 Babalawos present, because they all must be in alignment with each other. There's a reason why there's 3 there. And the Epe or the Pele tray must line up. And based on the Odus that come up, they all have to be in line with each other. I'm saying this is traditional stuff. Anybody that will tell you, some Babalawos will tell you too, they'll make you do it again, because if you didn't do it the right way, they won't work with you unless it's done according to how they've been trained in studying Ifa. They'll tell you that that's not the right way. Same thing with your warriors. If you work with Babalawos, they're going to ask you, how did you receive your warriors and how were they prepared? And some, before they work with you, will have to do the warriors over for you, because it may not be in line with how they practice Ifa from a different perspective. So there's a lot involved in that shit. A lot involved. What else we got here? Let's move on. Yeah. Yeah, I know the spell check, it'll kill you. Adam, I don't know who John Ramirez is. It's not ringing a bell right now. And really, my opinion wouldn't matter. Obviously, he left. He probably had his reasons. So I don't really know what his reasons were. So I couldn't speak on that. All right, what else we got? All right. I think we're pretty much at the bottom here. Yeah. Was this one down here at the bottom? I had one text me and tell me the ancestors sent them to me complete. Yeah. Oh yeah, they'll have the hustles. I've heard crazy stories online. Oh yeah, them Babalawos from Africa, boy. They've taken people for money on the internet, through Facebook, it just amazes me how dumb people will be, and give out their personal information, their cash apps, credit card information, bank information. I suggest do not do that. Look, people, let me tell you this. I've said this with Paulo, with Ifa work. Nobody can make you a ganga pot through the internet. Okay? Anybody that tells you they'll do that for you and pay them this amount, please don't do it, because you're going to get scammed. You're going to get ripped off. And this is why it's the same thing. People will call me and ask me, can you work with me in Palo? Even the brother who you guys might know as Angel, Brother Nahisi, who has a long lineage, and he assists me in the Palo and the African witchcraft and magic classes we're doing on Patreon. And a very knowledgeable brother and elder, and it's a blessing to be connected to him. And he's connected to all the old school pioneers in New York. There ain't nobody that don't know him. Going back, to the 50s and 60s. And same thing he tells him, I tell him. You got to be with somebody live and in person that you can trust. to do that work. You can't work with somebody via the internet, or somebody's claiming they're going to make something for you and mail. No. In a lot of those systems, they're systems that are conveyed from mouth to ear, and you need to work side by side with, I'm saying if you go the traditional route is what I'm saying, be clear. You have to be with somebody live and in person. It's not something you can do on the internet is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay? And the challenge is finding somebody you can trust that's not going to take you. Look, I guarantee you this. This is how you know, like for an example, this is classic. If you walk into a shady ass Botanica, them motherfuckers can smell you a mile away. One, you walk in, they don't recognize your face immediately. If they're a bunch of scammers, they're gonna be like sharks smelling blood. They'll come up to you, hey, how you doing? This and that. What you're looking for, they'll start out with the basic. Then they'll tell you that the spirit, come in front of my Gango pod. I'll do a reading for you. And then it usually turns to, you got an evil spirit on you. You need it to be removed. I can remove it for you. They'll tell you a bunch of shit to pump your ego up. You're a son or a daughter of this. You need to do this and that. It's the classic bait. Okay. It's tough because now, again, I want to also say this. It's a shame because there are some good people out there in that path, and it kind of gives them a bad, reputation. So you really have to search. It's no different if you want to be really study and learn Voodoo or Haitian Voodoo or Voodoo, or you need to be under the tutelage of an elder that can show you hands-on, he or she. You can't do it via the internet. It just doesn't exist. It's a tradition that's hands-on, mouth to ear. And you must be in a house and have an understanding of that land. Now, again, we're talking from a traditional perspective. If that's your choice. And I'm saying this all in regards to be careful to the comment that the brother had there. There are people on the internet, it's been going on for years now, claiming they can do this. There's a good, I can't remember the name of the page on Facebook. I think it's Santero's Exposed. They do a good job on putting the faces and exposing a lot of con artists all over the country that are ripping people off through those practices. And there was one video I saw in there, it was fucked up. That somebody had paid somebody to make them an Olegua, their warriors in the pot, and they immediately sensed that it was bogus, and they did a video live filming it, and they broke the Allegro apart. They broke the pot, and there was nothing in there but rocks and dirt. They broke it and they took it apart. And it's sad, and that person paid quite a bit of money for that. Now, I don't know, going back, when I did my warriors, it was cheap as hell. I believe it was like $275, $300. Wasn't that much money. Now I heard they're charging damn near $1,000, $2,000 for that shit. That's crazy. I remember clearly my warriors, maybe 300, maybe a little bit over 3. That was for my pot, all the implements in my pot, my Osun, everything. Again, I was fortunate. My godmother was, I was fortunate. She was very straight to the point and honest. And not only with me, I witnessed her being fair with a lot of people. And that's a blessing. It's hard to find. Now it's even harder. So yes, finding somebody you can trust can be very complicated, unfortunately. But if you do decide to pursue that path, you got to find somebody hands-on. You can't do it via the internet. So don't reach out to me. I can't do it with you, and you're not in this, in my area. But I don't even deal with that traditional stuff no more. So the only thing I would be able to do is teach and show you certain things, because after I got crowned and initiated, I didn't want to take on a house or have any godchildren, any of that. I don't want to do any of that shit. I just had no desire to do that. But I've been out of that loop for years now. I left that years ago. When I say years ago, I'm going to say, 2006, 2007. I've been out of it for a long time now. I look at it as a period I went through a spiritual path I had to experience, and it's just part of the experience. So that's where I'm at. So I couldn't even really help you in regards to getting traditionally initiated, and I wouldn't refer anybody unless I knew them. Can I send you to somebody? Yes, but you know how that game goes. You got to make sure if you send somebody fucked up, it's a bad reflection on you. So I couldn't send anybody to somebody unless I knew them to a certain degree and can vouch for their character, right? That's how that works. All right, what else we got? Oh, wow. Yeah, it's I believe it's a Facebook page called Santeros Exposed. Hold on, I'll pull it up right now. Hold on. Yeah, I believe it's called Santeros Exposed. I have it saved in my Facebook. I just can't remember it. Hold on, I haven't been on there in a minute. Hold on, let me pull it up. Yes, and they exposing everybody in that motherfucker. All the con artists and the hustlers. Hold on, I'll pull it up right now. Here we go. Yeah, Santeros Exposed. That's the name of the group. You could go on there, you'll trip out. Hold on, I'm clicking it now. Yeah, that's it. Santeros Exposed is the name of the Facebook page. Yeah, and it's showing all the stuff that we're talking about now. It's showing all these different con artists and hustlers that are taking people's money, creating fake palo pots or ganga pots, fake Orishi implements, fake Alleguas and warriors. And they're being exposed, and rightfully so, taking people's money and ripping them off. Some of the videos will make you laugh, man. You see some of them fucking videos, you'll crack up. Yeah. They're Jenny, they're pretty knowledgeable. I forgot. I actually talked one time to the administrators of that page. They're legit practitioners. Trust me when I tell you, and they're pretty rooted deep. They know a lot of people, but it's a good platform. When you go through it, you're gonna see some of the crazy shit, man. Some of the shit people do, man. Yeah, it's crazy. All right. Anyway, all right. I think we're at the end here. I've been on. It's approaching 3 hours. Time to wrap it up. Anyway, just to finish what the topic was, hopefully this gives people a better understanding of the concept of what the personal daemon or the holy guardian angel is and how we utilize it on the left-hand path or the occult, right? So hope this gives you a better idea. And again, you can't have, as regards to shadow work, you can't have one without the other. They are connected. It's an integral part. So again, I would encourage you, check out the Patreon page. Before I go one last time, check out patreon.com /Baniti, BANITI, patreon.com /Baniti. I would recommend tier 3 because that gives you access to all the classes and the rituals. If you need to contact me for any consultation, spiritual readings, just shoot me an email and I'll get that information over to you. Other than that, see you next time I get back on. I have no idea when that be. Could be tomorrow, could be next week. I just go with the flow. But lately I've been in a vibe. I've been coming on every couple of days. Maybe I'll be back in a couple of days. I don't know. All right. Other than that, infernal blessings to all, and we will talk soon. All right. Peace. All right.